from that community almost begging the police to come there. No.
Yep. A mother of one of the mass shooting victims pleads to the mayor.
It did not have to occur.
Yes,
you understand? It did not have to happen.
We make her voice heard as a community takes their safety concerns to the acting police commissioner. Plus, reports say city police turned down federal aid in the mass shooting investigation. New tonight, we press the mayor for answers. Maryland state attorneys sounding the alarm on juvenile justice laws.
There's nothing the law will allow us to do to hold them accountable.
We make their frustrations heard and question one lawmaker on those laws. A local nonprofit fights to curb crime is burglarized for the 5th time. What its leader fears if it happens again.
Tracking threats of showers and storms into the overnight. I'm breaking down the impact in your neighborhood.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Carjackings. New questions for Baltimore police about their response to the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. Some question if police are using all resources available for the investigation.
That's right. And this as the mother of Adalia Gonzalez, one of the 2 people killed in that mass shooting, brings her concerns directly to the mayor and acting police commissioner during their last public town hall tonight.
All I know is that I listened to the transcripts, I read them, and I heard police officers said this is a job for the National Guard. No one responded.
Yep.
I had people from that community almost begging the police to come there. No one responded.
Well, Fox 45's Keith Daniels was at tonight's meeting where the mother of one of the Brooklyn victims had sharp criticism we just saw for BPD.
Our team coverage begins with Jeff Abel, and there are claims the department turned down federal help to catch suspects. That was first reported by the Baltimore Brew. Jeff, what can you tell us?
Well, the reports are actually accusing the city of resisting federal help with this probe. And tonight, many community leaders are calling on Congress to step in and asking the feds to take it over.
And it's clear, y'all did nothing. All of y'all dropped the ball.
In West Baltimore today, neighborhood president Doc Cheatham says he's lost all confidence in the city's ability to solve the 3-month-old case of Brooklyn's mass shooting.
It was the perfect storm. Every agency that could have done something did something wrong or left out something they should have done. And I'm saying, let's clean this up. Let's bring the feds in, FBI, ATF, let them investigate the case.
Cheatham and more than 30 other community leaders are now calling for a congressional inquiry into the mass shooting that left 2 dead and 28 injured. So far, police have made 2 arrests, but no one has been directly linked to the shootings of the 30 victims. The investigation has been saddled with questions about officers' failure to secure the crime scene and the sweeping away of possible evidence before it could be properly processed.
This is the type of things they teach us not to do at the academy.
From the beginning, the mayor has insisted federal agencies are assisting in the probe. In fact, this is from the mayor tonight.
You know that ATF and FBI have been there since day one. We're not going to go into deep detail about what our federal law enforcement agencies are doing in partnership with us.
But an investigation published by the Baltimore Brew today says the city has actually shunned the help of the FBI and the ATF. Quoting a top-level source at the Justice Department as saying, there is a strong, puzzling culture at the Baltimore Police Department that circles the wagon and says, this is our business, we can take care of it, thank you, but we got it. Unfortunately, they didn't have it.
I think in this case, the federal government could get everybody out of this, do an outside investigation.
After 3 months, Cheatham is convinced an outside investigation is now critical to ensure the truth finally surfaces.
3 months is unacceptable. We're not asking to pointing fingers at anybody. We want an inquiry, a congressional inquiry, to bring in all the people to find out why 3 months and no action. Unacceptable.
Well, last month, the city had promised to release a report, its own report on how it handled the case. Tonight, however, the mayor promised to expect that report very shortly. We're live. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Well, the Brooklyn Day mass shooting also a topic of discussion at tonight's final public comment meeting with Mayor Brandon Scott and Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley. The mother of one of those victims killed says city police weren't there when residents needed them.
I had people from that community almost begging the police to come there. No one responded.
Well, Fox 45's Keith Daniels was at tonight's meeting. He joins us live now with the very latest. Keith.
Well, Mary, the mayor and acting police commissioner faced a packed room in East Baltimore tonight. And for one mother, it was very emotional as she faced both city leaders.
Welcome everyone to our 7th and final public safety meeting.
For the past 3 weeks, Mayor Brandon Scott and Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley engaged in community meetings, both virtually and in person.
We thank God for you in this opportunity, to our mayor and to our acting commissioner today.
Tonight at the Greater Paradise Christian Center in East Baltimore.
And if you're in East Baltimore, let me hear you say East Side.
East Side. The last of 7 city town halls. The mayor.
And fathers, we open up this meeting today. We don't do anything without you.
With his nominee for police commissioner.
One of the biggest things that I did in the Northeast, I was able to connect with the community because I communicated with them on a regular basis. And I was honest. I told them when we messed up. I told them when we did well. We mess up, you fix it, you move forward. And I'm going to do the same thing as the commissioner.
The mayor calls the meetings an opportunity to discuss how to build a safer Baltimore.
This is the goal, to become a city in healing. We all need healing.
And to hear from residents about what they want to see from the city's police commissioner.
I wanted to ask for both the mayor and the acting commissioner, what is...
Residents have stepped to the mic with a range of concerns.
We're frustrated.
Not surprisingly, violent crime, including the deadly shootings happening across the city, have been a top concern for residents. At this meeting,
I have to live with this unbearable pain.
The mother of 18-year-old Adalia Gonzalez, one of the 2 people killed in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting in July. The heartbroken mother telling the mayor and Worley city police were not there when the people in that community needed them.
I had people from that community almost begging the police to come there. No one responded. Dispatch started begging police to send someone out there. Nobody responded. And then I heard you say, by the time we got here, the incident had already occurred, but it didn't. It did not have to occur.
As you know, you and I have had conversations that I'm so sorry what happened to your beautiful daughter and to your sister. As I've said to you, we'll be there for you. I'll be there for you to help you guys through whatever that you need.
Well, more concern about the deadly gun violence came from 16-year-old Diana Wilkerson. She told the mayor and acting police commissioner about the shooting death of her young godbrother. Meantime, the commissioners or acting police commissioners' confirmation hearing is set for September 21st. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. That mother's heartbreak and pain is visible and just heartbreaking. Mayor Brandon Scott and Acting Commissioner Worley have been hosting these town halls all month long. Residents have brought up a number of concerns, from prostitution to juvenile crime, even the Safe Streets program.
Neighbors would be more comfortable speaking to the police if they were out of their cars.
I was at the Squeegee Collaborative, which started 30 minutes late, and the mayor was absent. This meeting also started 30 minutes late. It's clear that you don't want to hear from citizens.
When we're talking about trust, I want to know, what are you going to do to show the Baltimorean that lives in this? They seize it every day. The Safe Street workers you all talk about, I watch them sell drugs. I watch them.
The prostitution. The prostitution brings the Johns in who feed the prostitutes with money.
Fox 45 News has done extensive reporting on these town halls and the concerns residents brought up at them. You can find all of our reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Mayor Brandon Scott will hold a news conference tomorrow morning at 10:30. The mayor says he'll be making an important public safety announcement, but didn't provide further details. Fox 45 News will have complete coverage on air and online.
Baltimore police offering a $4,000 reward for information about an armed carjacking in Upper Fells Point last month, one of several car-related crimes in recent weeks. Alexa Ashwell has more on that story coming up at 10:30. Juvenile car thefts have also had lawmakers' attention over the past week. Fox 45 News reported on 2 11-year-olds involved in car thefts. Police say both are too young to be charged. Legal experts argue something needs to change.
I think if there were better
means of accountability and there were more consistently applied accountability, we would see the numbers go down.
Well, many lawmakers and prosecutors say the state's juvenile justice laws are to blame for an uptick in youth crime. State Senator Jill Carter authored some of the laws in question. She's continuing to push back on those claims. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has the arguments from both sides.
Senator Jill Carter says law enforcement, prosecutors, and leaders all over the state of Maryland don't understand the law that she helped sponsor and get through the General Assembly. But the message from these leaders on the ground is clear. They say the changes to the juvenile laws aren't working. Senator Jill Carter standing by a plan she helped usher through the General Assembly. Not prosecuting kids under 13 with certain crimes and preventing questioning of juveniles without their parents' and attorneys' approval. Do you think that it's really having the intended impact?
I think that police and prosecutors need to be better educated if they're believing that they can't do anything, which I don't know why they would believe that. It makes no sense.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates disagrees.
Our problem is the system, and the laws just aren't working.
Saying kids are learning the laws and no, they won't face consequences.
There's nothing the law will allow us to do to hold them accountable, and they're doing whatever they want.
But it's not just Baltimore City's top prosecutors sounding the alarm about these juvenile laws. Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crimes.
Even in overwhelmingly Democratic areas like Montgomery County.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day. They get picked up for the second one, can't detain them. They're back in the community again the next day. They pick up a third. They're back in the community again the next day.
These top attorneys, seeing the revolving door of kids committing crimes, point to the laws as the problem. And police are the ones picking up the same kids time and time again for the same crimes. Like the 11-year-old in Baltimore County arrested 13 times since May 31st for stealing cars.
That's what uninsured motorists for, people like you.
Or another 11-year-old seen in this video obtained by Fox 45 News getting released by Baltimore City Police after allegedly stealing a car. No charges filed. From Anne Arundel County.
The 11 and the 12-year-old, had it been a carjacking or an attempted carjacking, that meets the criteria for those offenders to be charged. But since it was a crime against property, which motor vehicle theft is a crime against property and not a crime of violence, it does not meet the criteria for charging.
To Prince George's County.
Under the new laws of the state of Maryland, it has become more difficult for police to question young people about anything.
The message from leaders in elected office to on the ground and in the courtroom is the same.
We have 15 and 14-year-olds running about our community at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, armed and dangerous, unaccountable, and unafraid. None of us feel safe. I don't feel safe stopping at a gas station to get gas.
There is a huge disconnect.
Political analyst John Deedy says Senator Jill Carter and other architects of the juvenile reform plans like Delegate Luke Clippinger need to do a better job of explaining what's changing. But the changes are raising questions, and now no one is taking responsibility for what went wrong.
When you point one finger at somebody, 3 are pointing back at you. And I think that, there needs to be more legislative accountability. Now, maybe you need longer than a 90-day session to kind of comprehend some things.
Well, Carter argues some law enforcement and prosecutors might be resistant to change, and there are steps to take for kids routinely breaking the law. Prosecutors from all corners of Maryland argue the current juvenile justice restrictions tie their hands and protect the suspects of crimes more than the victims. Some states' attorneys say that these kids' lives are at risk, and without change, this juvenile crisis that we're seeing in terms of crime will only get worse. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Senator Carter says law enforcement can file what's known as a child in need of supervision petition, a SINS petition, when there's a young offender. That petition can offer programming and services like counseling to the child and family, but those services are voluntary. Senator Carter says next session she will once again introduce legislation that would require police departments to file the petition. That same plan didn't pass last year.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Who is responsible for the juvenile crime crisis? Parents, lawmakers, both, or none of the above? So far, 88% of people who voted say both. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Hurricane Adalia is barreling toward Florida right now, expected to make landfall tomorrow morning. On the left, streets already flooded in Fort Myers, and on the right, a live look at the calm before the storm near Tampa. That's on the west coast of the state as the hurricane moves north. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers tracking the path. And Jonathan, I've been checking with family and friends in Florida for this storm.
Yeah, and Adalia now racing its way northbound towards the Big Bend area of Florida, north of Tampa Bay, and it looks like it's going to be a Category 3 when it makes its eventual landfall late tonight and early tomorrow morning, and then racing north and east, eventually east. So this could have some devastating winds, Category 3 strength or higher, over 115 miles an hour. Some big flooding. Good news, not hitting us. And, of course, the biggest threat's going to be the storm surge, maybe up to 15 feet along the Gulf Coast of Florida. Then there's also Franklin, which was a Category 4, now a Category 3, and that could provide some high seas and maybe even some pretty big crashing waves and rip currents for places like Ocean City. I'm going to break down what that means for your Labor Day holiday weekend in a couple of minutes.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, criticism for the Kerwin education plan as the state faces a $2 billion budget deficit over the next several years. What one group is calling on lawmakers to do as jurisdictions struggle to foot the bill. School bus problems don't seem to be getting better in Howard County after a second day of late pickups and no-shows. Fox 45 News demanding answers from school leaders. And coming up at 10:30, a nonprofit working to curb Baltimore crime falls victim to it again. The criticism the Guardian Angels have for the city after another burglary and why they say the situation could get worse. As Maryland faces the possibility of a nearly $2 billion budget deficit in just 5 years, one group is calling on the state to pause the implementation of the Kerwin plan. Governor Moore recently saying the state needs to be more disciplined in its spending, but didn't say specifically what needs to change. So we spoke with Christopher Summers with the Maryland Public Policy Institute on Fox 45 News at 4. He says he believes the Kerwin education plan is driving the deficit and it should be paused.
I'll use Fox 45 News, I think, to go on record. The Maryland Public Policy Institute believes that the state of Maryland should actually pause the implementation of the Kerwin plan because of the fiscal impact and the responsibility on the counties for the county portion of paying for this.
Well, Summer points out Montgomery County and Anne Arundel County both already raised property taxes. The Kerwin plan, also known as the blueprint for Maryland's future, pumps $30 billion additional tax dollars into public education statewide over the first 10 years. Then an additional $4 billion every year after that. Lawmakers overrode Governor Hogan's veto of the bill in 2021, passing it without a plan to pay for it, though. This year, Maryland jurisdictions had to pay more into the plan than they expected, many of them saying they are struggling to cover the cost. Mayor Brandon Scott called it a gut punch. You can find more on the Kerwin plan on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Two Baltimore County parents sent these photos to Fox 45 News, apparently showing children sitting on the floor of a crowded school bus. You can see about 8 students crammed along the back of that bus. Parents are outraged at the photos, saying it's dangerous. The school system says the overcrowding is unacceptable, and they promise to send a bigger bus in the future. But parents are still questioning how this was allowed to happen.
You know that that's wrong. So how could you drive off with these, 8 or 9 children sitting on a floor, knowing that they are at risk?
They knew at the beginning of this, of the school year, how many children were going to be on that bus. They should be prepared for how many children are going to be on that bus and provide the proper bus.
Howard County parents are also reporting issues with the school bus system. Some parents tell Fox 45 News their kids' buses arrived late on the first day of school or didn't show up at all.
And those issues continuing today as several buses arrived late once again. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has an update, including a response from Howard County leaders.
It's very unacceptable.
Howard County's back-to-school bus struggles continuing to drive into day 2 of the school year.
We got the email saying that the route was canceled.
Teresa Andrews, just one of many parents affected by the 20 bus routes suddenly canceled late Monday night. The school system sending this notice out at 11 p.m., giving little time for families to make alternate arrangements.
Fortunately, I'm home. What about parents that aren't home?
Meanwhile, other parents complaining their buses still showing up late as the school system's new bus contractor admits to bringing in drivers from out of state.
She said, "I'm sorry, we just got in from Spokane, Washington. And we're not familiar with Maryland. We're not familiar with these routes."
Finding out that the bus drivers did not practice the route, that is not a good representation of what we're dealing with.
The company behind the dozens of delays and cancellations, Zoom Transportation, a California-based tech company, awarded a 3-year, $27 million contract, accounting for more than half of the school system's total bus budget. In a statement sent to Fox 45, Zoom claiming, quote, Howard County has historically faced a major driver shortage and offering no timeline for when they'll be able to cover all of their contracted routes.
My husband is a bus driver for Howard County with a different contractor, and I know that there are companies like his where the drivers don't have enough routes. Instead of us having to drive our kids to school, they need to use some of the existing contracts to fill these routes.
And Andrew is far from the only parent voicing frustrations. Complaints continuing to pour in on social media, and overnight, this online petition demanding Superintendent Dr. Michael Martinano resign, gathering more than 200 signatures. The petition reading in part, "Our students deserve better. We believe that new leadership is necessary to restore confidence in the administration and ensure the well-being of our children's education."
The district signing to giving away all the bus contracts to one company that has no track record in Maryland whatsoever.
If he's doing all that and disrupting the lives of our children and their education, we think he should be held accountable.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, Howard County Executive Calvin Ball addressed the bus mishaps tonight, saying that over the past 4 years, the county has increased how much money it gives to the school system for transportation. Ball added the school system has sole authority over the student transportation, and any parent should direct their questions to the school system. Fox 45 News reached out to the school board and the superintendent for comment. So far, we have not heard back.
If your family experiences any issue with school bus systems, we'd like to hear about it. You can send any information and relevant photos or videos to the email address you see here on your screen, news@foxbaltimore.com, and we'll check it out. A California bakery is being accused of anti-police bigotry, why it refused to serve a uniformed officer and how it's responding to the controversy.
And we're tracking a few showers overnight into early tomorrow morning. A live look at the HD radar shows you there are some showers that are off to our north and west, and even over portions of Virginia, some flood watches. But then the big news, Adalia down to the south, that is moving northbound. Around here, though, we're going to get lucky, at least for tomorrow's recess. Becoming clearer and also turning less humid. Temperatures right around 80 for the kids heading out and about across the swings and maybe playing some ball. But I'm going to let you know if we have any effects from the tropics in your Labor Day forecast.
And heading to break, this is a live look at the Inner Harbor right now, all calm out there in Baltimore. But again, we're going to be taking a look at the effects of Franklin on the surf in Ocean City, particularly for the holiday weekend. Taking a look right now at the Fox 45 quad box on the top left, the suspect in the deadly shooting at the University of North Carolina will be held without bond. He made his first court appearance today. He used an interpreter. The 34-year-old is a graduate student at the university and accused of killing a professor yesterday. He'll be back in court next month.
Top right, the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. was closed for several hours today after it received a bomb threat through email. Police evacuated staff and visitors out of an abundance of caution. Nothing dangerous was found.
On the bottom left, a popular San Francisco bakery is standing by its refusal to serve armed and uniformed police officers, saying it believes prohibiting guns from the restaurant keeps it safer. The police union is accusing the bakery of anti-police bigotry when an officer wasn't allowed to buy a coffee because he was in uniform. The bakery says officers are welcome when they're off duty and not armed.
Bottom right, American Airlines being hit with its largest ever fine for how long it made passengers wait on tarmacs. The Transportation Department is fining the airline more than $4 million. They say it let 43 planes sit on the tarmac for more than 3 hours between 2018 and 2021. Well, ahead at 10:30, a Baltimore nonprofit falling victim to a series of burglaries dating back years. Why its leaders say the city needs to pay more attention to the building's surrounding area.
Tough lessons in the classroom. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. Why more teachers are walking away and why the problem could only be growing.
We're following three big stories to 10:30. School is back in session for millions of Americans, but teacher shortages are plaguing some school systems. Fox 45 News looks into which states have the biggest reason for concern.
Reward money now on the table after an armed carjacking in July. Why some legal experts say the city needs to take immediate action to address car crime.
A Baltimore nonprofit is trying to curb crime, but falls victim to crime itself in Morrill Park. And it's not the first time this has happened. We begin there. The guardian angels say there aren't enough consequences for crime in the city after another burglary on Monday.
That's right. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker shares their concerns about what could happen if they're targeted again.
The guardian angels say this is the 5th time in just the past 2 years that they have been broken into. This time, they say the thieves busted through this gate here and broke the window, getting inside.
They know when we're in here, when we're not in here.
It came as no surprise.
How desperate do you have to be?
As the guardian angels discovered their headquarters at a church in Morrill Park.
And we realized, okay, the doors are open, stuff's broken into, stuff's missing again.
Were broken into once again.
So they pried this open, went down there, busted the window, reached inside, and opened the door and came in that way this time.
Marcus Strider-Dent, who leads the nonprofit group striving to make a difference in communities riddled with crime, says this is the 5th time in the past 2 years their headquarters have been ransacked.
Luckily for us, since they've broken in so many times, we don't have much left to take. We're still trying to rebuild what they took from us before, computers, televisions, all that stuff.
This was the scene in 2021 where thieves left extensive damage inside.
We're the guardian angels, for goodness sake. You know what I mean? we cannot catch a break here.
Dent doesn't feel they're being targeted for who they are. Instead, he says it's just the nature of the neighborhood.
It's all about the fact that the criminals basically have more rights than the victims.
According to police data, there have been a total of 248 crimes in Morrill Park this year, including 4 homicides, 16 robberies, 20 burglaries, and
82 larcenies.
There's no consequences in Baltimore anymore for anybody. Crime's pretty much legal.
We've all been hit by the crime.
At a community meeting just last month, residents expressed frustration with crime, many pointing to drugs as the problem.
Guy got murdered broad daylight, right in front of my house.
As Dent works to make sure another break-in doesn't happen,
The place is going to become sort of like a fortress, and we cover the cost for all this.
he's concerned someone will get hurt if they're targeted again.
What concerns me is it's escalating. You know, somebody comes in here and one of the angels are here. You know, I don't know what my angels hurt.
Police say at this time, no arrests have been made. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News is learning 2 businesses on Washington Boulevard in Pigtown were broken into on Sunday night. Police say some of the windows were smashed, but it's unclear if the burglaries are connected. Police are still looking for suspects. Anyone with information is asked to call Metro Crime Stoppers. City police are offering a reward in connection to an armed carjacking caught on surveillance video in Upper Fells Point. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell has an update on the investigation, as carjackings are a big concern for Baltimore residents.
This newly released surveillance picture captures the suspect who investigators say committed an armed carjacking in Upper Fells Point back in July. Metro Crime Stoppers now putting a $4,000 reward on the table for information that will help lead to an arrest as carjackings and auto thefts continue to plague Baltimore. The numbers alarming. In just 1 week, there have been 26 carjackings and 227 auto thefts, according to BPD's crime mapping data. One of those carjackings happened just 1 week after and 3 blocks away from where Daryl Benner was shot and killed outside of his home in Canton by suspects who police say were stealing his nephew's car.
But he did take his final breath laying in my lap.
This surveillance video capturing the armed robbery that led to the homicide. The suspects still on the loose.
The general reason why cars are stolen nowadays or carjacked is to provide a vehicle to commit other crimes. And by and large, those crimes are being committed by juveniles, some as young as 12, 13 years old.
When it comes to this latest 7-day data, Fox 45 News questioning Baltimore police, how many of these crimes were committed by juveniles? Juveniles committing crimes and the laws in place, a top concern voiced by some leaders. The Juvenile Justice Reform Act prohibits children under 13 from being charged with most crimes. In fact, just last week, Fox 45 News uncovered an 11-year-old arrested by Baltimore County Police who was found to be connected to more than a dozen car thefts across the region, is not facing charges due to his age. Some argue change is a must.
I think if there were better means of accountability and there were more consistently applied accountability, we would see the numbers go down.
Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Prosecutors in the federal case against former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby are pushing back on jury instructions proposed by her defense team. They call the instructions overly complex, confusing, and one-sided. Mosby faces 4 federal charges, 2 related to perjury and 2 related to false statements made on a loan application. Mosby's defense team is still pushing to have the case moved out of Baltimore, saying media coverage has been unfair toward Mosby and could sway the jury. The hearing to determine whether the trial will be held in Greenbelt or Baltimore is scheduled for next Friday, September 8th.
The Anne Arundel County school system is joining a lawsuit against major social media companies about the impact those sites are having on students' mental health. The lawsuit includes sites like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, claiming those companies are doing whatever it takes to keep users on their sites without thinking about mental health. Philip Federico is the attorney representing the school system. He says once children are addicted, there can be serious consequences.
They produce likes, hearts, and get really these children to spend an enormous amount of time on social media. The addiction really leads to mental health issues like anxiety, like depression, self-image problems, even suicide and suicidal ideation. So the medical community is really up in arms, and certainly the mental health community in our schools are begging for help.
Federico says parents should talk to their children about social media safety, but he emphasizes parents can't be around their kids 24/7. So it's important for the social media companies to understand the impact that they are having on children.
Experts warn a nationwide teacher shortage could be getting worse after an acceleration during the pandemic. So which states are seeing the biggest problem? The National Desk, Angela Brown, reports.
The Florida Department of Ed says the state has over 4,700 open teaching vacancies. In North Carolina, more than 5,000. One reason? Pay. Our team of reporters talking to educators nationwide, including Shayna Pill in North Carolina, who left the classroom after a decade.
I don't receive enough pay to put food on my table and clothe my children, and they're on Medicaid and we receive food stamps.
New information from the National Education Association says nationwide over 314,000 job openings still exist in our schools, and over 286,000 of our educators in our schools are not certified for the subject they are teaching.
And we also know that when we do not have a certified, qualified, certified teacher in front of students, it impacts their ability to learn.
Some say the teacher shortage is getting worse. Take Pennsylvania. Nearly 9,600 teachers leaving their jobs, the largest increase in the past decade. In Maine, more than 2,000 teachers and other educators quit or retired last year, the most in the past 7 years. Michelle Cook, College of Education, Clemson University.
One of the reasons why there is a teacher shortage is that sometimes folks leave pretty quickly once they become teachers. So there's an attrition rate, especially in the first 3 to 5 years.
In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Fox 45 News is your back-to-school headquarters. We've done extensive reporting on the staff shortages and other school issues here in Maryland. Scan the QR